Welcome to the Genesis Mindset. Got a slightly different setup today. I'm just feeling a little bit bored. Things are low, just trying something different. Got Mother here with me. So I want to go into a bit of a lighter stream tonight. Shorter, lighter, just taking a casual look at where things are without doing any kind of heavy analysis. Really just going back on some of my previous points and seeing where we're at. And then connecting with you all. That's really what I want to try and do. Maintain that consistency and connect with you all. Sometimes my energy is low and I can't be bothered. I'd rather just go do something else. But I think it's important to maintain the consistency as well. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. But either way, I think it's nice to connect. So I want to just look at the flows, potential opportunities, and how smart money might be positioning themselves and how we could potentially position ourselves better in the future. Because one of the things that does suck if you're heavy in the Atropa ecosystem and Pt I is when things are low like this, the whole system is low. And so trying to find some kind of a hedge somewhere. So can we find it within pulse chain or can we find it outside of the system? So I'm going to have a look at that. And then I also want to just have a quick look today into going into some of the thoughts that I've been having about the Atropa ecosystem and how it might possibly be a new financial system. So I've been talking about this for a long time. This might be a truly decentralized financial system, but I didn't think that I didn't think that it could actually be one until very recently. So I've been looking at the hedges within the Atropa ecosystem, which is convincing me that the possibility is there. Does it mean that it definitely is? No, it just means that the possibility is there. So I'm going to be looking at that, and I'm going to look at this Atropa ecosystem in the context of the fourth turning. I saw a really awesome video on Twitter the other day that I want to share with you guys, and I'd love to hear what you guys and girls have to say about it actually. So all right, so what's going on, Zymus? What's going on, Puffy, Diversify, Orez? What's going on, everybody? Jesu, all the usual names in here. Love to see you guys in here. Nice, man, watching you early in the US. Pt I rising. D Tucker, Pt I is rising. Yes, this is very true. But what I would say is if you're an accumulator, for me, don't like I would say don't get your hopes up high, but getting my hopes up high is meaning like lower prices if I was accumulating more. But I think people are just kind of really out of money, so we want to just see rising prices, which is fair, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, things are really, there's been a bounce. So this is on the weekly. There has been a bounce on the 24-hour on everything. So it's not a massive bounce, but it is a bounce. So I think this is quite an ordinary bounce, but I don't consider it to be like a bounce strong enough to be a sign of a reversal. So I want to just go into Pt I because Pt I definitely seems like the spear for everything. And I want to just zoom in here on the daily. And obviously we have had a green candle making its way back up to the 9 or 0.9 cent mark. So I do, so it's on Heikanashi at the moment. So we'll see what happens here. It's really getting ready to kind of break through this area, which is a key level. Could it bounce off the 1 cent mark? I'm not too sure. My gut feel tells me that I mean, look, it might break through, but my gut feel tells me that the low is not in. That bounce off the bottom is it's not a convincing bounce to me, just from my perspective. It's not a convincing bounce. Things haven't really turned around too much within the whole system on Pulse Chain. Things are still seeming quite low across Pulse Chain. And one of the recent clues that I was looking at was this stable LPs clue. And so I'm seeing that this is really going sideways. So until I see some kind of a radical drop like this, where I see maybe stables being heavily deployed, then for me, yeah, I don't feel a reversal. Put it that way. I don't feel a reversal. I feel like there'd be things that would be clearly showing me like, yep, we definitely got a reversal. But for me, I don't feel it. So now if I just go back to this. So yeah, for me, I don't know. I'm thinking it's going to be something like this. And so if anyone is, I don't know when you guys get your 5,000 stimulus check from Trump, but wouldn't that be great if you got that before this particular time? This could be the takeoff. This could be the bottom. Who really knows? This could have been the bottom, the local bottom. Who really knows? My hope and wish is for the accumulators is that it comes down to here, because really until we get to the end of the bull market and hit that $1, then the longer it stays down, the better. That's just the way that I see it. I don't see it going crazy. after the $1 mark. The way that I see it is we're going to get to $1. It's going to be very close to the end of the bull market, and then people are going to get too greedy and chase things, and then the smart money is just going to like stabilize everything with liquidity. That's kind of how I'm thinking things might actually play out. So yeah, very casual, down to Atropa, legal down, nothing really out there. Obviously, for me, this is a good sign of a potential reversal. We've got Teddy Bear reversing. So again, this is Heiken-Ashi, but it's showing signs of a reversal. Teddy Bear is the strongest meme coin. So when Teddy Bear really reverses, I feel like it's getting close to the reversal. It's getting close to the bottom. That's how I feel about it. Teddy Bear's a clear sign of that. So Teddy Bear and Pt I together are clear signs of that. So for me, opportunities, I'm seeing this. So this is Hot X and Hex. So for the first time, I've seen, well, for the first time since the start of February, we're now seeing a green candle emerge. So this is a Heiken-Ashi. So this could potentially be a reversal here. I still like this as an opportunity. I still like this, particularly now that Hex yield has been destroyed. I really do like the idea of this being some kind of a short-term staking mechanism, way that people with eHex are going to utilize for short-term staking. That's how I'm looking at this. I could be wrong. It was definitely looking like that for a long time here, but now it's just been getting savage with the rest of the Atropa ecosystem. So even if there's no more buyers, this will just get carried up. So even if you're the only person that buys this here, and then nobody else buys or sells, it's just going to get carried up with the rest of the Atropa ecosystem. But there actually is quite a substantial amount of holders in this, so it does bear that risk. But I just think that this is definitely going to be something to keep your eyes on, because especially now since the Hex yield has been really destroyed. So XUSD still doing the same. So until we basically reach until we end the distribution phase, which is going to happen in March, then this is going to continue to really go down. So this is where people really started to buy it. I think based on one of my streams, I started talking about it. I think possibly it was around this area, and it pumped. And I was telling everyone that there's a good chance that it's going to continue to go down, because it's in an inflationary at the moment where tokens are being distributed out. So that's going to happen till around about mid-March. So then, obviously again, okay, well, what can I find? Is there anything within the Atropa, or was there anything within the Atropa ecosystem or within Pulse Chain where I can find a hedge? So when things are down within the Atropa ecosystem, because we know that things are sort of very regularly cyclical. Whether or not they continue to do this is another story. We don't know if they're going to continue to do this. I mean, I would hope and dream that it continues to be this quote unquote easy, because this has made it like this kind of pattern and this kind of chart has made it very, very easy. But I'm not so sure. So, but there's a part of me that also thinks there is a very good chance that it can happen, because everything is so mathematically designed and so precisely designed by Maria. So where can I find something? So I just thought, out of curiosity, obviously one of the things that we've been looking at is the relationship between Atropa and down. But I wondered, okay, what about just buying into down, for example? So then I just did like a comparative analysis of, so this is down to pulse, and then the purple is Atropa to pulse. So down to pulse, this is, again, it's just another representation of just how beautiful the Atropa ecosystem is, which again just convinces me more and more that we really might be onto something solid gold here. I've seen Danny Mandibo talk about Sonic. There's a new blockchain called Sonic, and he said, "Oh, this looks like a real DeFi revolution." And I said, "Well, what's so good about it?" He's like, "Well, it's faster transactions and it's cheaper." And I just thought, there's got to be something more to it, Danny. Like, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And he told me to investigate it. But to be perfectly honest, I'm not really motivated to investigate it. If that's all they have to offer, faster transactions and cheaper transactions, that's not a DeFi revolution. That's not an ecosystem that's being designed. This is an ecosystem. Look at down to Pulse Chain. Look at Atropa to Pulse Chain. They're pretty much moving in sync to Pulse Chain. But then against each other, it tells a completely different story. It's just such a fascinating. It's just this story of beauty and math and design where it's like, how is this going to unfold? How is this actually going to play out in the bear market? Again, this is what I'm most interested in. Can this be a holy grail for a bear market? We've seen some signs, we've seen some evidence. We now just have to wait for the results, because obviously we heard the same thing. We've heard the same thing over and over with every cryptocurrency. We heard the same thing with Hex. We've just heard the same thing. Then I also looked at PTGC. To be perfectly honest, I looked at, I'll probably ignore that one, but this is PTGC to Pulse Chain, and then this is Atropa to Pulse Chain. And there's no sort of clear advantage there, I suppose. Well, in a way that there is somewhat of a clear advantage, because if you could almost treat PTGC as like a store of wealth, and it just keeps going up, and it's kind of like subverting all of these bearish trends that are happening within Atropa. So this is not the full Atropa. This, I think Atropa topped out here, but this is obviously just the date of this particular pool. So this is Pulse Chain and PTGC. Could have been when PTGC launched, and then Atropa really went down, and then they were kind of in sync here, and then they're still kind of in sync here as well when there was a down, but the severity of the downs on PTGC is not. I mean, this is just, wait, that's weekly candles. Damn it. Is that weekly? Did I get weekly? Let me just double check that I did get weekly, because obviously we need to have the consistency. Otherwise, it's not really going to tell an accurate story. Yeah. Oh, I don't think I did, actually. I better double check that. I don't think I did. You can see by the definition of the candle. So 9th. Let me just do this again 1 second. So the 9th. Here we go, 9th to now. Cut that. The plant is very pleasant. I'm quite enjoying the sways of the plant in under the fan. It's really, really quite pleasant, to be perfectly honest. It's kind of almost got a calming sensation. But okay, so yeah, this is more like it. I mean, it's basically the same thing, but the candle definition is different. So yeah, you're seeing that they're kind of moving together, but yeah, it's not. They really kind of broke out. They really that you can see it here. Like there was this is bearish, and this became bearish, but PTGC bearish was like 40%, and then again this kind of little bearish trend here, 30%, whereas Atropa would have been more of a dip. Then Atropa really pumped, and then PTGC's just casually gone up. So what's that? The 28th of October. How much did Atropa go up since then? So the 28th of October. So yeah, I mean, it didn't outpace PTGC actually. So yeah, they're kind of moving together, and now this has had a bear trend, and it looks like whales have really just been accumulating PTGC. I mean, look at this candle here. So it's almost like people could see, all right, we're really entering now into this bearish phase for Atropa, and now it's just created this extra run in PTGC. But again, it's not really a hedge, so you almost have to really look outside the ecosystem. So yeah, there's not really much to be said. So to be perfectly honest, you either be patient and wait for things to go down and just accumulate, and you've got a job and you're accumulating on the lows, or that should be market price, not market cap. And then, or you're playing in another ecosystem where there's movement, say Solana or Ethereum, and then going from there. So that was market cap. I mean, it still really tells kind of very much the same story. So yeah, so sadly the inverse relationships within Pulse Chain is not really there. There used to be a really good inverse correlation with the Tangang ecosystem, but not so much anymore. Like you look at HOA, for example, and it's really yeah, the chart just doesn't look all that good at all. It really has lost a lot of strength compared to, say, things in the Atropa ecosystem. So I can see dumb money here as well. So yeah, for me, honestly speaking, so this was obviously all my homeostasis conversations yesterday. People were waiting for a nice dip, and I like waiting for a nice dip. So there was a 60% dip, but to be perfectly honest, I think it's certainly possible that it gets down to like a 70% dip. But yeah, if I was accumulating, I'd definitely be scooping some up now. That's just me. So hopefully something like this can be like a bankroll into Atropa tokens, and that's a way that you can treat things like PTGC, where you have the yield and you just keep your principal, and then the yield you're putting back into the Atropa ecosystem or Pt I. That would be a cool little play. So I did catch Maria's stream earlier. It was a lot of code speak, stuff that I don't really understand. Whenever I'm in there, I'm just kind of hoping for some alpha, and then I just throw a few troll comments in there and leave it at that. Maybe, hopefully, I'm hoping on the other side, Maria maybe gets a laugh out of my troll comments, but who knows? So, ink inflation reduced again. I didn't know this. So all the inflation across Pulse Chain is really reducing. So if Investor Eco is a perfect place to be while Atropa is down and sideways. I mean, a lot of people are coming to me now with Finvestor, so I might have to look into it. I'm not going to look into it today, simply because I just don't feel like doing anything new on that level today. So maybe I will look into that, because I really have been seeing so many people tell me about Finvestor. So I need to look into it again. I did do a stream with OG Web Chef, but all the tokens that I had, I even did a video on his ecosystem, but there wasn't a huge amount of support from the community, and all the tokens that I had were just, they kept going down and to the right. So I was sort of kind of over it, and I don't want to FUD it, and I hope that that's not considered FUD for the bag holders. It was just something where it's like, okay, well, I just kind of lost interest in it. But obviously it's gone up. So all the tokens that I had, I can't even remember which tokens I had, but they're probably up compared to when I would have had them. So I don't even know. I've nuked all my wallets. So I don't even know what I had in there. So I just know that when I nuked it, it was down and to the right. So no Puffy, I've just got a fan on. So yeah, it's quite pleasant though, isn't it? It's really quite pleasant. And there's 3 leaves, so it's really she's just gorgeous. And there was a caterpillar on her the other day. There was a caterpillar on her, and I don't know how they get in here. I mean, I do know the door's open, but the fact that they come all the way in here and then they crawl up here, and then I think the caterpillar had like a whole bunch of billion babies, and there was all these little baby caterpillars walking all over the desk, and I was like, what the hell is this? It was quite adorable, to be perfectly honest. So Mother Nature is just always everywhere, just flowing and flowing. So the Pulse Chain holders stood our ground. We survived harsh dips, lies, negative propaganda, and still fighting the JITs and almost done with the SEC. I believe our hard work is done and we won. Simus, I love that attitude, my brother. I also agree that we are very, very close. I think that tweet from Richard Hart about Coinbase and saying that next week, I mean, who knows? If something positive happens with Coinbase next week, maybe it's going to be with all of the cases. And then if that's the case, then these predictions go right out the door. These predictions go right out the door. So if I'm saying, okay, yeah, we could get down here and maybe like mid-March, we'll get to this low, but we end up getting a case dismissal maybe next week, then these predictions go right out the door. It's like a white swan event. So that would be really fantastic. For the accumulators, it's bad news, because there goes their one and only opportunity to accumulate the lowest that it's ever going to be. But I feel like this is just going to really send after the case gets dismissed. So FJ, I don't think I've ever seen you in here. FJ, what's going on? I love your profile pic. Really love it. The Atropa Eco is super bullish. Yes, it is, man. Yes, it is. At the moment, yeah, smart money will just be looking at when's the reversal coming? When am I going to rotate? When am I going to buy that ultimate bottom if I've got assets sitting on the side? Am I getting close to that ultimate bottom? If I was holding, I would be pretty much getting ready to like fully deploy all of my like ultimate bottom down here. It's like it's too risky. You might get left behind, but I would certainly be like scaling in. So what's going on, Mr. Rock Jockey? What's going on, Matt? I know. I'm a bit sad about this BFF that the late. It's really yeah, we had a good run above. I mean it 2x on the 8K. So yeah, we're sitting below. It's been dragged down by the rest of the Atropa ecosystem, but that's okay. I think we'll get back up there. We'll get back up there. We'll definitely get back up there. So yeah, Dumb is definitely on a nice dip. BFF that the load. Oh yes, no, it's real. It's real. I've got these all over my meditation center. Have a look at. I showed this way back in my earlier Tropa days, but this is how I set them all up. So they're just glass tubes. So I get all these beautiful shaped glass tubes. This one probably, I mean, you can clean them endlessly. So I don't really want to sit there cleaning them all the time. But basically, yeah, you just put water in there, and then I mix like eggshells into them, and then that's it, and they just grow, and they're all over the center, and the root system is just gorgeous. It's like artwork. So, and I got them all over the center, and I got them clustered in groups of 3. So everywhere groups of 3, the Holy Trinity. All right, so is the inflammation coming down? Is the inflation coming down and maybe more gains coming from pools? Could that be what he's trying to do? Create encouragement to the pulse LPs like Pt I. I've thought about this. Possibly. It's a potential. But I also think even if he's not trying to create that, I think the opportunities are definitely there. I mean, you're now having like volume that's going to move through just say like Pulse X and Pulse Chain. If people have removed their V1 liquidity, but they haven't added it into V2 liquidity, then the auto routing through the swaps between Pulse Chain and PulseX is going to, more of that volume is probably going to start to go. You're going to capture more of that volume in V2. And I don't think, I mean, I don't actually know. There's probably something that I could actually look at, but I don't know what the statistics were for it. So it's kind of hard to look at. I might be able to research that, but honestly, I still think I still think the LPs is a GOAT play. I still think like my mindset is the long-term mindset. I believe that if we're creating a truly decentralized financial system, then where you want to be is a liquidity provider. I'm not interested. Like, okay, yes, I am interested in these 10,000 X's. I want to get these fast gains and stuff as well to catapult my bags, but I want to create a foundation of wealth that I can live off sustainably. And when I don't need to live off it, but so that I can fulfill my destiny with that principle, not touch that principle, and just keep growing with yield and compounding with yield. That's what I want to do. So LPs is going to be where it's at. So I just think being a liquidity provider is just such a GOAT play, and I don't think enough people are aware of it, and I don't think enough people do it. So I think especially now, while probably so much V1 liquidity is being removed because of ink, it's probably a really, really, really exceptional idea. So yeah, man, 8 to 12 cents. I agree. What's going on, TS Pedro? They have had plenty of time, Puffy. You're right. You're definitely right. So, oh, nice, FJ. Nice, man. Well, welcome aboard. So, I had a dream and bought the #1 meme Pulse Chain teddy bear. Nice, bro. Nice. I had an Atropa dream as well, actually. Atropa ecosystem already dead. No, tech learning BD. Definitely not, bro. Definitely not. If we see a break below this trend line, then yes, I'd say okay, this is looking like we're in some trouble. But until we break below this kind of trend line, then we're good. We're smooth sailing. So everything is sort of moving as it should, as far as I'm concerned. So everything's looking very comfortable, very chilled, very beautiful. So yeah, where whether it bounces down to here, who knows? It remains to be seen. So, but yeah, definitely not dead, man. Definitely not dead. So, got to pump those bags up, Steve, before you go to Korea. I'm over the Korean bays. Matt. I'm being more open minded. So, yeah, I'm being more open minded. I'm now just I'm looking for. Well, I'm not really looking, but I'm being open to just any partner that's going to like be in alignment with my energy. So I don't think it has to be Korean. I think that's too restrictive. So, but yeah, they're very, very, very cute. So, okay. So yeah, not really too much going on here. I've showed dumb. So yeah, not too much going on. But again, like also don't forget, maybe I should just very quickly bring this up. Don't forget some of these plays. I haven't got them all set up yet. Yeah, the PRC20s, when no one else is talking about them, this is probably the time where you want to be looking at those things. But unfortunately, if you've got no money to be accumulating anything else, you've probably got no money to be accumulating this stuff either. That's kind of the hard part. So, all right, let's get into this part of the video because I saw this the other day and I've been hearing about the fourth turning a lot. So I wanted to, like, when I watched this, I was like, wow, this is really cool. I've got to talk about this on a stream sometime. And I thought, hey, why not? Tonight's the night. So let's play this little clip. So just give me a second. I got to make sure my sound is on.
History repeats itself in 80-year blocks called saeculum, but we'll just call them history blocks. Not exactly 80 years. This is history, not math, but roughly the span of a human lifetime, maybe 80 to 90 years. Within these 80-year history blocks, we have 4 turnings of around 20 years each. We usually call them generations. This book calls them turnings. Turnings are sort of like seasons, like spring, summer, fall, winter. Throughout our history, we've had these 80-year blocks, and the 80-year blocks have been remarkably similar to each other. We're in one now.
Always these things which align with natural principles, for example, seasons, and you could probably also consider your life to follow these kinds of trends with childhood, your, after your 20s, then your midlife, and then your twilight years. So these natural reoccurring patterns, for me, they're everywhere in nature, and humanity is one with nature. So we might think that we're separate, but we're definitely not. So yeah, that was the first thing. Was like, that's really cool.
The first turning, the first season, is a high, an upbeat era. The second turning is an awakening, a passionate era. The third turning is an unraveling, a downcast era. And the fourth turning, well, sorry, but fourth turnings suck. The fourth turning is a crisis, an era of upheaval. We're in a fourth turning right now. During a high, the getting is good. We had the most even distribution of wealth during our high. You could work at a gas station and afford to buy a house. This high is the period that the MAGA hats refer to. We got Hank Williams and Elvis and Little Richard and the birth of rock and roll. We launched monkeys and men into space. This is when the Mustangs and Corvettes first came out. Our high ended with the assassination of John F. Kennedy on November 22nd, 1963. The high is not a high for everyone, of course. America still had a segregated South. Homosexuality was illegal and considered a mental disorder. The high is a period of conformity. The age of nonconformity and of social justice begins during the awakening, our passionate era. During the awakening, we had Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement, acid, Vietnam protests in Vietnam itself, the Women's Liberation Movement, Stonewall and the Gay Rights Movement, great movies, great music. This is when the first Macintosh computer came out. The awakening is a time of increasing individualism. This second turning, this awakening, ended with the re-election of Ronald Reagan in 1984. Things get messy during the third turning, during the unraveling. We got the fall of Soviet communism and the beginning of the Russian gangster state. The greatest musicians of the time sang about violence and decay in their deteriorating cities. The LA riots, OJ, the bombing of Bosnia, and the Columbine high school shootings on the same day. September 11th, the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Our unraveling ended with the financial crisis of 2008. 80 years ago, in the last fourth turning, America had her Great Depression, then World War II. 80 years before that, the Civil War. 80 years before that, the Revolutionary War. Each generation's archetype is the characteristic that will define the generation in its prime, in midlife. The boomer archetype is the prophet. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are boomers and prophets. Both predicted that one day everyone, not just big corporations and governments, would own a computer. Gates even predicted a crisis like COVID-19 5 years beforehand. The writers of this book are boomers and prophets. Gen X is the nomad generation. The quintessential Gen Xer, Elon Musk, builds things that move us from one place to another. Rockets, electric cars, hyperloops, nomadic devices. But the millennials, raised during the unraveling, will emerge as the hero generation during this crisis. These are the Parkland High students, the frontline hospital workers, and Malala Yousafzai. The book says millennials will be the World War II heroes of our history block. We don't know what Gen Z will do, but they will be an artist generation. From them will emerge the next Bill Withers, Toni Morrison, or Bob Dylan, all born during the last crisis, all from an artist generation. The history block before ours ended with World War II and began with the Civil War 80 years prior. The history block before that ended with the Civil War and began with the end of the Revolutionary War 80 years prior. Every 80 years or so, something big comes along and changes everything.
So I don't know what you guys are, but I'm in the hero. I'm a millennial, so I'm 1986. So well, I'd say the majority of us are. I know that my channel statistics is like mostly between 25 and 35. So yeah, we're the ones that are going to conquer this new world or this new turning, this new age. So it's pretty interesting, right? And these cycles continue throughout history. So let's continue. So this is only in the context of America, but really America has been the center of the world since, well, for a very long time, since the Constitution. So let's keep watching.
And now we're at the end of our history block, right in the middle of our crisis. We're in the process of changing our world again.
Oh, that was the end. Yeah. So, was that the end? I thought there was more. Yeah, I thought there was supposed to be more, but maybe he showed 2028. So 2028, and then I thought I heard somewhere or read somewhere that it was 2025. When I looked into it again, so obviously it's around about this period of 2025, 2028. So pretty cool, right? And so what are we seeing that's happening in life right now? We're seeing all these convergences. I mean, for me, the culmination of this is the metaverse, all these forces that are happening in the world right now, the economic forces, technological forces, artificial intelligence, consciousness forces, it's all going to converge into the metaverse. That's where I feel like it's the conclusion of this particular era. But the fact that we're in, I mean, it's clear, right, that we're in some kind of a crisis. I mean, 2008, the global financial crisis, and since then, nothing has really been the same. We've just been constantly basically stimulating the economy, and it's a dead economy. It's something that is not working anymore. Capitalism has reached its limits, and it's kind of uncomfortable to talk about those things sometimes because as I was growing up, I was very naive, and I said, capitalism sucks. My tone was a very arrogant, condescending tone. But capitalism is brilliant. It's brought us to where we are now. It was as it is. To denounce capitalism is to denounce reality, which is to denounce God. That I don't take that path anymore. I don't take the path of criticism. That's when I used to have a really deeply negative mind. Now it's just like, okay, let's be objective. Capitalism has reached its limits. It's based on linear mathematics. It's based on continuous growth. And we're living on a planet with finite resources. Not only that, not only is it based on linear logic, it's based on a linear outlook of life, past, present, future, physics of linear cause, effect. Everything is a reflection of the consciousness of the time. So even prior to these times, the development of society all these forces are running side by side with each other. So when I was studying architecture, you see that trend expressed in the buildings. Their consciousness of the time is a reflection of the types of creations that they're making, because architecture is unique in that it's not just art, it's also an expression of technology and science. Because unlike art, which is just free to create as you choose, you actually are creating something that has to be functional and usable, and it's a structure. So we have to live in it. It has to be comfortable. It has to perform all these functions. So form and function go together with architecture. Whereas art, okay, yes, you have sculpture, but sculptures don't serve any purpose besides being an artistic expression. Whereas architecture has an actual function. We live in buildings. We're surrounded by buildings, and so architecture is very unique in that it has the unity of the art and the science. So watching the trends and watching them unfold through history, I was always fascinated by history. And so I was always able to clearly see, the way that they did the buildings in this time reflected how they thought about nature, how they thought about reality. It was the pinnacle of their scientific understanding of reality. Then you would have big moments like Descartes and the philosophers, I think, therefore I am. This starts to throw questions in people's minds about reality and what is reality, what is thought. And then it starts to change the way that people start designing structures, because they're really intellectuals who are producing these things and creating these things. So it's really, really quite fascinating. So really, it's really, to me, very clear. We really very, very much are at this point of a crisis. We all know it. We all feel it. That's why we're all in cryptocurrency. Something is not right. Something in this world has to give. I don't think cryptocurrency in its current form is the answer. I don't think in its current form is the answer. That's why I made this particular tweet. So what if we're on the brink of a financial revolution? So people often measure the pinnacle of DeFi on faster and cheaper transactions. So, Solana, faster and cheaper, more users. But is that really what DeFi is? You're really just transplanting the same logic of a linear system onto a blockchain. It's just the same thing. You have your pump and dumps, you have your rug pools, you have linear liquidity systems where everything is like up and down, go through Solana into this token and then back into Solana. It's linear. And so I don't think that that's the answer. I also don't think Hex in and of itself is the answer. So for me, it's very clear that capitalism has reached its limits because it's based on a linear model of reality. I don't think that, people will debate it, and that's fine. I'm not really interested in debates. I don't consider myself to be stubborn, but I've seen that it's literally at its limit. Like you can't keep something that doesn't work continuing forever because it's not in harmony with nature. If it's in harmony with nature, it will perpetuate forever because nature exists eternally. And so nature, without human intervention, will continue eternally. But human society will not if we keep up with something like capitalism, because it relies on taking advantage of certain things to produce other things. It's not based 100% on the logic of nature. So for me, a true financial revolution should be based on a quantum model of reality. And I know, again, even whether quantum mechanics is, in a way, I'm very simple in that maybe I'm a bit naive. So if there's a whole portion of physics that come out and say that there's this reality called quantum mechanics, and even Einstein, who was at the pinnacle of physics, starts to look at it and goes, something's not right here, but has this fascination with it that's unsolvable. But then other people are starting to create all these hypotheses and theorizing, and now these things are being proven. It means that we might not exactly have the answers in the theoretical physics, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer to understanding things because we're observing reality with even more and more precision, and we're understanding it with even more and more precision. And now the fact that you're getting, I've been watching a YouTube with some Italian. He's an Italian physicist and very materialistic, very linear thinker. Materialistic, linear thinker, physics, cause and effect, that kind of model of thinking. And so for him, quantum mechanics and concept of God is just a bunch of BS. But then he actually had an experience which taught him or showed him reality, God, universe, showed him, this subjective self doesn't actually exist. And the observer is actually the universe. So he had this breakout moment, and he felt everything is just love. The whole universe is just love. So he had this enlightened, awakened state. And it totally revolutionized his thinking. And so he's a very successful businessman, very successful physicist. He created I think he was doing like microchips and maybe maybe not quantum computing. Maybe that's what he's doing now. I can't remember. He's an Italian guy. Really, really interesting perspective. But basically, he's now deducing that consciousness is not separate from reality. And so this is one of the pitfalls of the linear model of physics, is that the linear model of physics basically starts with a big bang, and then it ends in some kind of like contraction of the universe. So again, it's thinking of things linearly. It's thinking of things from a time perspective where there's a start and a finish. But a quantum reality is not like this. You have things like quantum entanglement, where things are connected by superposition across time and space, and interacting with one thing instantly, interacting with a particle here that's quantumly entangled instantly creates a reaction on the other side of the planet, irrespective of time and space. And so this shatters the understanding of the linear perspective on reality. So a true financial revolution should be one based on a quantum model of reality. And the reason why I also believe on the quantum model is just because, for me, it's just two sides of the same coin. Physics, science, quantum mechanics is one side of talking about God, and religion, spirituality, metaphysics is the other side of talking about God. But they're two sides of the same coin. They're just two different ways of looking at exactly the same thing. And because I've had experiences that I can't deny, they're just irrefutable in my mind, then yeah, for me, if ever there was going to be a system, it would need to be something. A true financial revolution would have to be based on a new mathematics and a new science. And that new mathematics and new science is a quantum-based mathematics and a quantum-based science. So the fourth turning suggests that we're getting close. So I don't know where I heard 2025. Maybe it was on a podcast with the author. And for me, again, all the pieces are really in place. When I look at the Atropa ecosystem, I'm seeing all the pieces there, and it's like, wow, this is really fascinating. We're seeing a dynamic system, but it's still not quite there. There's something about it that's still not quite there, but I'm seeing signs. And everybody, not everybody, but so many people that are in the Atropa ecosystem. Even when you listen to the Zurich guy, in Zurich, there was one particular guy, I don't know who the gentleman was. He was wearing a hat and glasses, and he mentioned like, this really feels like a truly decentralized financial system. Like, I don't really understand it completely, but it really feels like it. And you hear so many people talk like this. This feels like it. And this is also how I've been talking from the start. And in a linear world, in a reality, basing things on feeling is not the way. But in actuality, feelings are just like a feeling is basically like a precursor to the thought. It's like your logical brain is trying to divide up and understand something, but your feeling is already telling you what it is. Your feeling is like the amalgamation of that reality, and you're feeling it. If your mind is clear, and your mind is righteous and truthful and sincere and authentic, then that's why, for me, a lot of people really feel something with the Atropa ecosystem, that there's something happening here. There's something under the hood. And the more that I explore it, the more my energy just goes crazy. The more that I'm just like, it's the synchronicities are undeniable. Synchronicity is just alignment with reality. Carl Jung spoke about synchronicities as like this phenomena that existed within reality, but from the perspective of the self. So from a subjective perspective. So this person has this experience of synchronicity where there's this coincidence, but he's talking about it. I mean, he was the first one to pen the term synchronicity, to the best of my knowledge. And so he's talking about it from the individual perspective, so from the subjective perspective. But synchronicity is actually alignment with reality. So that's actually how we should be living. If you're living in a state of alignment, reality, it's just life as it is. But it seems like this magical, mystical thing, like I had a synchronicity, this is amazing. And when they first started happening to me, I also felt like that. Like, this is so profound, it's blowing my mind. Then it happened more and more and more. And the more that I meditated, the more that I discarded my false self-centered self, the more that I discarded that false ego, which I still have, but the more that I discard it, the more synchronicities I have. And the more that I realize the synchronicities, or what people term as synchronicities, is just an alignment of this being with reality, with nature's flow, with God. And so it's just the language of God. And then even, I was talking about, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to go into that particular synchronicity, but there's just been so many, especially around the Atropa ecosystem. And again, who else in all the other blockchains even talks about any of this? Do any of the other influencers talk about synchronicities? Not that they should or whatever, not that they should be talking about how they feel about things, but all they talk about is, oh, like what's his name? Rand Nunes now talking about Sonic, and someone else, some other big influencer, like, and somebody did a tweet like, I wonder if they got a big allocation. There's no need to wonder. Of course they got a big allocation. No one here that's in the Atropa ecosystem or Pulse Chain has any allocation, is talking about this for the sake of allocation. We're talking about this because there's something that we feel here that's different to the rest of cryptocurrency. And so for me, that holds weight. The synchronicities hold weight. That is like profound evidence that I know that we're on the right path. And simply because the life that I'm on, the path that I've been given, is the destiny that I've seen in my mind, the visions that I've seen, not even the visions that I've seen in my mind, actually, just the destiny that I've seen unfold when I ask those questions to the universe, and the answers come in the conditions, not just once or twice. Like these synchronicities are like all the time. I'm like, okay, this is irrefutable. So if this is happening on an ever increasing and an ever accelerating rate, I'm like, well, I'm definitely in alignment with reality. I'm definitely on the right track. I'm definitely talking about the things which are being birthed coming into the future. Because again, from a linear perspective, I mean, what is synchronicity? I mean, from a linear perspective, I mean, I've drawn these things before, but a linear perspective of time is like this. What a line. Holy shit. That's a hella straight line. Woo! That's the old model of physics, of time and space, is like time is this thing where it has a past and a present and a future. But in actuality, from a quantum perspective, it's just eternal time. And so it's more like you see the infinity. So yeah, in the present moment, you're perceiving things from the future. And so it's like how I feel about something that's being birthed is resonating from the future. And that's why we even use language like, oh, this is resonating with me. What is resonating? It's a vibration. It's a frequency. Everything is just energy and light. That's the substance of the universe. The universe is just the mother and the father of creation. The universe. And this is also why this is, I apologize in advance, but there's also going to have to be an updated understanding of God. This will have to come, because God is not just a he. Because just to say that God is a he denies the counterpoint to that, denies mother nature. We would always refer to it as mother nature. You would have pagans who would who'd refer to nature as like a feminine thing, but it's not. It's neither feminine nor masculine. It's just the mother and the father, and it's just the one. It's the one existence. You can't divide it into two, but as soon as you do divide it into two, it's the mother and the father, but it's actually just the one existence. And so you have the emptiness, infinite space, and then you have the consciousness that fills it up. The energy, which is the body, which is the mother, which is the emptiness, and the light, which is the consciousness, which is the father. And so together, it's just the one existence. And so everything is just energy and light. So when you have these feelings in this moment, or these synchronicities, it's just your being aligned with the flow of nature. You're in tune with nature. This is why we also talk about being in tune. So for me, it's irrefutable. For me, we've so won. we've so won. When I talk about the fact that we've won, I'm just like, I'm not just saying that to gas people up. I'm not just saying that as like a dopamine inducing thing. I actually do believe sincerely in my heart that we've won because I know my destiny. I know where my future is headed. It was so profound for so long that it was like, it cannot possibly be. Someone as pathetic as me, someone as ordinary as me has a destiny and a future like that, but I can't deny it. It's undeniable because the evidence just keeps getting presented to me by the universe, and it's just like, how is this possible? How is this possible? And so if all I'm doing is continuing to clear my mind and staying in tune with reality, and all I'm doing is being led forward through nature's flow, then just through the virtue of being in alignment with nature, there's an inevitability of winning. Whether it comes through the Atropa ecosystem, I don't know. I believe that it will, but whether it does, I don't know. But it will come somewhere along the way on this future. And I believe that we're very, 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 very close to it, particularly when I look at something like this. When we're at this point of where this fourth turning is, we're at this big cyclical point where there's this big shift, this big change, this big turn, and this big, like all these technologies are, I mean, AIs, I mean, look at AI now. It's where we're really only, it hasn't even like embedded itself into every aspect of businesses yet. It's starting to get there, but what happens when it really does? What happens when all these things start to converge? That's where this fourth turning is going to be. Like there's all these massive, massive innovations. So for me, you know, if I think of an innovation, if I think of a truly decentralized financial system, I do not think of faster, cheaper transactions. They don't even cross my mind. I think that's a linear way of looking at reality. That's transplanting the old model onto cryptocurrency, and it's just the same shit in a faster, cheaper way. Who really cares? But this Atropa ecosystem with hundreds of tokens, with tokens that are hedged against each other, tokens that are called gold bullion, tokens that are called first mutual bond, tokens that are called treasury bill, tokens that are called the Fed, tokens that are called like whatever, like all sorts of things. A truly decentralized stablecoin that nobody has custody over. That's potentially moving up from $0 to $1. It just has all the ingredients. It has all the ingredients. It has the potential. It has the potential energy is huge, huge, huge. The potential energy is huge. Whether it manifests into reality, for me, it seems inevitable. It seems very inevitable. Whether it manifests in reality within this cycle or the next cycle, I don't know, but it seems very much inevitable. That's just the way that I feel about it. And there's a part of me that says these things as a way of like feeling that sense of inevitability and also speaking it into existence. That's why, again, I don't engage in the negative stuff on Twitter. I don't engage in it. I feel sorry for people that feel that way. I know how they feel. I know that it sucks. I know that it sucks that things are down. It does suck. We want things to go up. I understand that, but it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't mean anything. And engaging in that energy is just feeding into that energy. And all you're doing, it's like negativity is the past. It's past energy. Negativity is like dead energy. It's stagnant. It's lifeless. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't produce anything in reality. Negative energy is just conservative. It keeps things where it is. Positive energy is what brings things into existence. Positive energies from the future, like being proactive and moving into the future and being positively minded and optimistic. That's the creative force of life, not the negative energy. How many people that are negative around you and like, oh, this is shit and that's shit, how many of them are successful? Do you know anyone who's wildly successful and has like a massively negative mind? I don't really know anyone like that. Yeah, they'll have their negative tendencies, everybody does, but to be like purely negative minded and be stuck on the past, like, no, it's just no. So why even, if everything is just energy and light, why would I want to bring energy from here into the present moment? Why would I want to drag this past dead negative energy into the present? Why would I even want to give it a second thought? You don't. Just keep being a winner. Just keep being a winner. Just keep focusing on your destination. And there's scriptures on this. I think who's that guy? One of the first motivational speakers. He would talk about it all the time. What's his name? Jim Rohn, I think, or maybe Zig Ziglar, one of the two. And he would talk about in the Bible. I can't even remember the passage in the Bible, so it would be butchering it. But it was something about like, being lost in the desert, but always like knowing the destination, and that's what carried them there. And God carried them there. They were lost, but I can't really remember. But these parables are the reason why the Bible resonates so much with the world is because it's true. It talks about true things. It's written from the perspective of truth. But the problem is the human mind is what interprets it. This is the problem. This is where all the wars, all the conflicts, all the divisions come from. For me, it's like there's no separation between any of the religions. They're all just talking about the same thing. It's like the same. They're all just talking about the same thing from a different perspective. But instead of seeing the unity of it and seeing this beautiful totality, everybody sees the divisions and will know. The Muslims say this about God, then they can't possibly be right. Well, okay, they're written from the perspective of truth, but they were also written by imperfect humans, which the truth will get filtered through that person's consciousness. So in the same way that when I have moments of truth, it's also getting filtered through my imperfect consciousness. If I've got any dirt in my mind, then that dirt is going to come out in my words. If this is why the elimination of the false self is just it's the way. It's the only way. It's the only way to become the complete truth. Because if there is no false self, then nothing can be blocked. There is only the truth. You're literally one with reality. So you're just, everything that you say is just, they're not words from your mind. They're words from the universe. They're words from the source itself. But if it's filtered through your false mind, this is also why there's so much even division on what this reality is and the matrix, is because we've taken pictures of that from inside of our mind. And even though those pictures might resemble that reality, if we're talking from those pictures, it's not the truth. It's not the truth. We have to actually completely get rid of that false self. We have to really die in the mind. That's the only way. That's the only way. And then when the words come through like that, then it's just pure truth. So yeah, for me, I mean, even now as I'm speaking, I know that most of it is probably true, but it's being filtered through some of my own pictures, some of my own falseness, and that's just how it is. So yeah, a bit of a rant there. So I just wanted to come on and talk about these things and just kind of introduce this kind of concept, because I've been really looking at this fourth turning a lot in the last few days, and I want to start to like pivot some of the things that I talk about, because I don't know how to talk about these things, and I don't know if they're interesting or not, but for me, they're very interesting. And if people find them interesting, great, because if people find them interesting, then they're probably going to want to learn about them. And if they want to learn about them, then they're more than likely going to capitalize from them. So that's not really the reason why I learn about them, but it's also part of the reason why I learn about it as well. I mean, if this really does represent a new, truly decentralized financial system, I want to know the ins and outs of it in every way, shape, and form. If this turns into something more than the old crypto way of just up and down, out it goes, liquidity in one way, liquidity out the other way, game over, a linear system, you either won, you were the 5% that rugged it, or you lost and round tripped. If this turns into another one of those things, well, the Atropa ecosystem was great. It was a great little experiment, but I don't think it's that. I think it's much, much, much more than that. I think it's much deeper than that. And if it ends up being this new profound thing of this new financial system with this new logic, that with these new principles on logic that it's actually founded on, then I want to know the ins and outs of it. I want to be someone that knows it so well that, because if you can be a master of that new system, then the future is just so bright. Because if it's, I mean, these are the things that are so hard, but it's like, if it is a quantum model, if this can be a quantum model, for example, a true financial revolution should be a quantum model. And I'm talking about quantum as well from the perspective of consciousness, then reality itself will bend towards the truth. because the truth leads the way, because the truth is the truth, and the truth is eternal. So if this is the truth, then I mean, I know that there's been so many people that have had like synchronistic experiences with the Atropa ecosystem. I've spoken to people. People talk to me about these things all the time. I know that it is. I really, really do. So yeah, if it is, then this is going to be a lot more than just a 10,000x. And I'm not saying, oh, it's going to be 100,000x or a million x. I'm not talking about it like that. Again, that's linear thinking. I'm trying to break away from that way of talking, because it is interesting, it's cool, but also it's not. I want something that maybe it doesn't do a 10,000x, but it's eternally sustainable. That's what I'm interested in, because if it's eternally sustainable, and then it's just my efforts that will get me the things that I need, and I don't have to just like hope and pray that I buy the right thing that gets a 10,000x and then I can do the things that I want to do. I would rather it be eternally sustainable in alignment with nature, and then nature itself will converge and bend to this system itself. This system itself will it's like what's his name? Dr. Joe Dispenza, when he talks about becoming superhuman. And a lot of, I mean, these guys were considered crackpots in, when they first started coming up talking about these things. But now they're talking to now they're talking to the biggest podcasters in the world, because the information that they have is true. And this is what it's always like. This is what it's always like. That whole, like, first they laugh at you, then they whatever, then they attack you, whatever. Like they went through those cycles as well. It's all just energy. They're all just expressions of energy, different energy states, as energy states move from one state to the other. And we label it as all these different things, but it's all just energy. That's why these patterns are all the same, because patterns are just expressions of energy. So yeah, these guys, they talk about, this concept of manifesting, for example, and your energy. When you have heart and mind coherence, then you're actually changing the quantum field around you. So let's multiply this. Let's multiply that concept. Let's multiply that concept. And if the Atropa ecosystem becomes something like this, it's far more profound. It's literally inconceivably profound. But at the same time, it is also ridiculously ordinary, because it's in alignment with the ordinariness of life. Because if the quantum reality of life is life, then it's ordinary. It's not extraordinary. It only seems extraordinary now because we're living so out of alignment with nature. We're living out of alignment with nature's flow. This is the problem. And so if, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, they've done the studies. I mean, I know it to be true because I know it from my own personal experiences. So for me, it's not like I don't need the convincing. But yeah, when you have heart and mind coherence, then what happened here? I'll change these colors just so it's a little bit. Let's go purple. We're in a coexistence mood. So there we go. So if I'm getting heart and mind coherence, and it's actually, I have heart and mind coherence, and it's actually reshaping the energy field around me, which projects out into reality, and then reality responds and manifests things into my reality. Because remember, it's all just energy, so I'll get exactly what I believe. You multiply that by an actual collective in harmony, a collective that's resonating in harmony with a system that's resonating in harmony. It's beyond profound. It's beyond profound because it's like a force field, because it's not just one person trying to bring this thing into reality. You're literally collectively manipulating, not even manipulating, you're literally collectively aligning yourself with reality in such a way that reality is then aligning itself with you. And because that is the case, then it means it's one. It means it's one. It means it's one in the sense of it's one O-N-E, but it's one as in W-O-N. It cannot lose. It cannot possibly lose. It cannot possibly lose because it's in alignment with nature. When it's in alignment with nature, it cannot possibly lose. It's impossible for it to lose because it's nature. Nature works. Nature is the greatest artist, the greatest creator, nature is the creator. So really just think about that. When there's all these beings that are interacting with this ecosystem, that are in harmony with this new ecosystem, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. But just really think about what that means. Really think about what that means. And for me, that's a very logical thing, because I also think about it in the context of like a consciousness revolution. It's a magnetic thing. So the method that I practice and the method that I try and spread around the world, I believe it is the method. I believe it's the one and only method to completely 100% eliminate the false self to become the oneness. And so if I am correct and if that is right, then it will just naturally proliferate, because it is that oneness. That oneness is self-expressing itself through this perfect method. So just naturally through the force of reality, it will attract people. And I know it does it. I know it does it because I know how it works with my meditation center. I know exactly how it works. It's day and night. This job that I have is like, people will think, oh, meditation guide, you just sit there all day and you just meditate and, kumbaya. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. This meditation method it's bringing about a consciousness revolution. It's not just about calming the mind and feeling good. Those things are a byproduct of that, because that's actually how we should be living. So all those things are a derivative of the true consciousness. But I know that it's like one of the hardest things to do, but it's also the easiest thing to do, because actually if it is the truly true method, then it will just work. And all I need to do is just get the hell out of the way and just deliver the method, deliver the meditation, and it will just work. And that's exactly what happens. I can see it. I can see it. Every student that will stop meditating, I'm like, that was my fault. That was 100% my fault because of some blockage that I had in my mind. It's like a stream that's trying to flow, and my mind is the rock that blocks the stream. But eventually the water will erode that rock, and that rock will, and that's the method. And eventually that rock of my false mind will disappear, and that person will just flow right through, and they'll be connected to the truth. And so I see it all the time. And so this actually is like, it's one of the hardest jobs, because I believe in like all the, I actually am rethinking the way that I say this. So people say, fix the money, fix the world. And I would say, no, fix the consciousness, fix the world. It's got to be all those things. It's got to be all those things together, all aligning. So the consciousness gets fixed at the same time as this, at the same time as this, as the same time as this. So all these aspects of reality are getting perfected at the same time. It's not like, again, there was like this separate way of looking at it. And in a way, like they all have to, that they're all just expressions of the same thing. So, I kind of lost my train of thought there. I'm feeling a little bit distorted. Maybe I got to stop waffling on here. So yeah, I think maybe that's enough. But yeah, I guess what I wanted to say is I see how with my meditation, how my efforts and my mind that I put into the world responds in how it delivers people to the center. I see it. And I see how, as a collective, with the meditation centers across Australia, we also do that, how we collectively block or make things grow. So for me, it's a fact. It's not a, I mean, it's just energy, right? It's just energy. If you have one little drop that falls down a rock, it's like, okay, well, that's just a little drop. If you've got 3 or 4 little drops, well, okay, you've got like a much bigger drop. Then you've got like a trickle. And then it's like, okay, well, there's this thing that's like continuously trickling down and it's maybe eroding the rocks below it. Then you've got like a stream, and then you've got a waterfall. And so each more and more that it has more and more power, more and more like impact on reality. And so, yeah, I've waffled way too much. So anyway, I'm just going to go through these comments now. So, all right. So got to pump these bags. We went through this before. So friendship confirmed. What's going on? All-time Heisenberg. Exactly. The Heisenberg. What is it? The Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Is it the Heisenberg uncertainty principle? So you would obviously also be into quantum mechanics. So friendship definitely confirmed, Habibi. I've always loved your name, bro. Trump is definitely turning the tide. Are we cheering for him or is there a dark side? So Matt in Bali, Trump is turning the tide. Trump is not a savior though. Trump is still coming from the old consciousness, but he's representing. So even amongst the old consciousness, there's rogues. There's rogues amongst that are showing us like a way out of it, but they're still doing it from within that mind. So he's kind of like he's not playing with the status quo. Like the status quo is basically just a collection of the false minds, and everybody just toes the line and does the same thing, and it's all controlled by the same forces. Whereas Trump, he's still out, like he's still within that mindset. So in a way, he's like the beginning point of that. So he doesn't have the true consciousness. He doesn't have the true mind. He's still self-centered. He still has the false mind, but he's like that drop. He's like that drop that's showing the way that, we don't have to be like that. And it's sending ripples out into reality of like, okay, things can change. And so Trump, yeah, it definitely is a turning point, but he's not a savior. He's not going to save the American economy. He's not going to save the planet. He's still got a dark side. He's doing some horrible things that will be affecting a lot of people very, very negatively. So yeah, it's abundantly clear to me of where his mind is at. So Gothic architecture, bro. Yeah, I mean, Gothic architecture is gorgeous, like stunning. I love Gothic architecture. I mean, I love it all, to be perfectly honest. But even just like think about that breaking so when you have like classical architecture, so even Gothic architecture is kind of like starting to break away from classical architecture, and classical architecture is like like European cities, like old European. I mean, Gothic architecture comes from there too, but then Gothic architecture starts to come at this point where there's like a newer understanding of reality. So classical is more like everything's a plane, everything's like these dimensions and this plane reality. And then Gothic architecture is like time and space, the introduction of this concept of like time and space and curvature. And so then that's reflected in the architecture. And then you have, I mean, there's a whole story. And then you have like modernism, which is really like modernism is just, it's more of like a consciousness change more than anything expressed in the architecture of like individualism and just, yeah, more so the consciousness, and also the fact that there's all these new modes of construction, and we've got steel now, we've got the Industrial Revolution, we've got all these new ways of creating materials, and we can create these spans and we can create these huge glass windows, and now we've got this new mindset and this new like revolution, and yeah, they're all aligned. So excuse me, I click buttons. Good morning, sir. Grandpa Pulse, only men can give life and only women can nurture life. Yeah, and together that I mean, I don't know if you're saying that in relation to the God comment, but how can they not be the same? How can life be given without the woman? They're both part of that equation. I just think it's a very patriarchal thing, and we were in the age of Yang, but now we're in the age of Yin, where the age of Yin is like the unseen forces, which also aligns with quantum mechanics. The unseen forces, the energies, really like this is what reality is. Everything flows, nature's flow. All these old practices like meditation and yoga, like these are expressions of the coming into the age of Yin. People will talk about the age of Aquarius as well. All the same kinds of things. So Neville Goddard, exactly. Consciousness creates reality. That's why I'm in the best ecosystem, Pulse Chain ecosystem, Atropa Inc., PulseX. Bro, I love it. Neville Goddard's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And again, this for me was a big X factor with Pulse Chain. This is the unseen force. This is not the 10,000x math, and I'm going to show you the equation that's going to get us 10,000x. you can start to see that now with the liquidity being thinned out, the inflation rate being dropped. You can see how these 10,000 X's can possibly come within Atropa and Pulse Chain. You can see that. But the unseen force, the hidden dimension is the consciousness behind Pulse Chain. That's this. That's this community, the community force. And amongst that community, there's all different sectors of the community. But yeah, as long as there's enough people here with a righteous and true and authentic mind, then do you see anything like this on Solana? Do you even hear anybody talking about these sorts of things on Solana? No. It's just the same thing on Solana as everywhere else. It's just exaggerating and it's highlighting all the worst parts about capitalistic liquidity. Teddy and Atropa, same price as almost 6 months ago. Yeah, yes, definitely. So coexistence, Stephen. I love it. HexOG here, brother. So you know what? I should read some Neville Goddard's books, to be perfectly honest. I've listened to a lot of like YouTube talks, but I don't know which is actually his YouTube talks now because of AI. They can just replicate his voice. But if you've got a suggestion of which of his books you think are the best to read, I'll definitely get around to it. So clean up your self-talk thoughts. Silence is language God speaks, create gaps between thoughts. Yeah, there you go. That silence is, if we really become one with that silence, I mean, the universe doesn't speak. And in actuality, if everything was perfectly working, humans probably wouldn't even need to speak. The kingdom of God is indeed within. So thoughts are electromagnetic interference. So this is my crew here. This is my boys here. So learning to us our thoughts instead of them using us is a wonderful gift to humanity. Exactly. Hexologist Heart, what's going on, brother? Of all the religions and gods spoken of and studied, there is only one that says he is the way, the truth, and the life. No other God promises you a way to heaven except the living God. Nature is part of the creation. Much love. Keep seeking the truth. Yeah. And yeah, doesn't Islam say something like that in a different kind of a way, though? I'm not saying I actually fundamentally agree with the way, the truth, and the life, but I'm sure the Muslims will say it in a different kind of way. Bro continues, meditation helps you become one with your inner being, for sure. You see problems more clearly and find answers quickly. I've experienced this many times. 100%, Simus. Couldn't agree more. Meditate on both of these waffle nuts to the moon. Proud of your authentic. Oh, cheers, brother. Maria says, fuck off. Maria probably does say fuck off. Oh, boy. Trump doing exactly what he's been told to. Interesting perspective, Richard. I have heard these kinds of hypothesis that Trump is really just like another plant. I don't really know. I would have no evidence either way, but he's kind of he's slamming a hammer on the old hierarchies. So it's really just like, we're getting close. We're getting real close. So now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. 1 car, 1313. I don't get the 1 car, 1313, but yes, brother. Faith, hope, and love. Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. Psalms, yes. And then be renewed. Be renewed every day. There's so much beauty. And then, there's just so much beauty in the Bible. There's so much. I really need to read the Bible again, to be perfectly honest. It just takes so long. That's the problem. And I got so many books that I want to read. So, exactly. Now, this is the interesting point. This is the interesting point for me, is every one of these fourth turnings, there was some kind of like cataclysmic war, civil war, a world war. There was always something big this is the one. Be still and know that I am God. That's the one that I was thinking. Ram, you took the words out of my mind. So will we have some kind of cataclysmic war with this turning? Will there be a moment? I really wonder. I don't believe that we will. I believe that there will be the emergence of a war or the potential for a war, but that will be, it won't play out like the Civil War did and like the World War II did. It will not play out. It will be like on the brink of war, and then it'll become eradicated because of this consciousness revolution. That's what I believe. Let's see. There's definitely divine intervention. You're reading my mind, Ram. Exactly. And the reason why I believe this is because I've had divine intervention, which has showed me that that's what's going to happen. So, yeah, let's just see. Let's see how this plays out. But for me, I think that this is really like, this is like a turning point. I think we're going to continue to have maybe these 80-year cycles, but they'll be different. They'll be more like positively geared, because now humanity is reaching a state of oneness that we've yearned for since the beginning of time. The wars, the conflicts, that consciousness is over. It's going to be a time of abundance. It's going to be a time of infinite joy, infinite life. So what need is there to kill when you are me and I'm you? But we know this. We know this by looking at science. Yeah, everything is just one. We know this. We actually know this, but we don't know it in our heart and we don't know it in our mind. We just know it logically, but we don't actually know it because we're not behaving like that. Even religions know this, but do religions behave like this? No. Even within religions, they don't behave like this. How can there be over 54,000 denominations of Christianity alone? How can there be? How can there be all those divisions? How can there be like, this church is wrong and that church says this, and no, well, we read the Bible like this? How can it be? Because we're not one in the mind. That's the problem. So there has to be a method to make us one in the mind. That's what salvation is. So anyway, these are just my postulations and hypotheses and speculations, but I'm going to leave it at that. Not sure I'm happy with the new that they will implement. Let us, human consciousness, build the new. Richard, beautifully said. Beautifully said. This is going to be the key of the new, is that if, like, this is why decentralization resonates so much with me, because it's not centralized. That means everybody owns it. So if there is going to be a new, it has to be one that everybody's involved with. There shouldn't be like a governing force or a policing force, or there won't be any of that in the new worlds, because everything is where that's the hierarchical world. Now we're entering the world of equanimity, where everything is just one. Everyone is on the same playing field. So anyway, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed talking about this, and I enjoyed interacting with you guys and girls. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining. I hope you all enjoy your weekend and take care of yourselves.